Hello, and welcome to another interesting lesson on ExamPadi. Our topic today is approximation, and in this lesson, we will 1. Define approximation. 2. Learn how to round off numbers. 3. Approximate values of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Approximation is not just a mathematical concept. It is a practical tool that helps you work with numbers quickly and efficiently, especially when you don't need an exact number. Whether you are estimating the cost of an item or the time it takes to complete a task, approximation is a handy tool that saves time and effort in our daily lives. What then is the definition of approximation? Approximation is a simple concept. It is anything similar, but not exactly equal to something else. In other words, it is a way of using rounded numbers to estimate the outcome of calculations. It's a tool that can help us decide whether an answer to a calculation is of the right size, that is, magnitude or not. A number can be approximated by rounding, and then the calculation can be approximated by rounding the values within it before performing the operations. Let's take a relatable example. If something costs 199 naira, you might say it's about 200 naira to simplify thinking about the price. This is a simple form of approximation we often use daily without even realizing it. Note that approximation is not used to find an accurate answer to a calculation, but to work out a rough answer that is close to the accurate answer. The symbol means it is approximately equal to. Let's take a look at this chart. 186 is approximated to 190 to the nearest 10. 1586 is approximated to 1600 to the nearest 100. 346 is approximated to 300 to the nearest 100. 1481 is approximated to 1480 to the nearest 10. 687.4 is approximated to 687 to the nearest unit. 4225 is approximated to 4000 to the nearest 1000. 69,685.42 is approximated to 69,690 to the nearest 10. 2.634 is approximated to 2.630 to the nearest 1000. 0.214 is approximated to 0.214 to the nearest 1000. From the table, we can see that when numbers are approximated, they do not give the exact result expected. In approximation, we only consider the next figure we are approximating. If it is up to 5 and above, we take it as 1 and add the 1 to the figure we are approximating to. If it is less than 5, we make it 0 and add 0 to the figure. Rounding of numbers. A number such as 178.075 is an example of a decimal number. The whole number part is 178 and the decimal part is 075. The point between them is called a decimal point. From this image, to the left hand side, you round down to 0, and then to the right hand side, you round up to 1. Let's take a look at this example. 178.075. To find the decimal place, simply count the number of figures after the decimal point. Thus, this number has 3 decimal places. 178.075. 0 is the first decimal place, 7 is the second decimal place, and 5 is the third decimal place. Example, To round a decimal number to a given number of decimal places. 1. Look for the last digit, that is, the required decimal place you are rounding to. 2. Look at the next digit to the right, that is, the decider. 3. If the decider is 5 or above, round up, that is, add 1 to the last digit. If it is less than, add nothing. Example: correct 35.4782 to 1. 1 decimal place, 2. 3 decimal places. Solution: A. 35.4782 equals 35.5 to 1 decimal place. B. 35.4782 equals 35.478 to 3 decimal places. Rounding decimals to the nearest tenth, hundredth, and thousandth. To round a decimal to the nearest tenth is the same as rounding to 1 decimal place. Likewise, the hundredth and thousandth are the same as rounding a number to 2 decimal places and 3 decimal places. For example, correct 507.6757 to the nearest A, tenth, B, hundredth, C, thousand. A. 507.6757. The first decimal place is 6, which is underlined, which is the 10th position. We have the next number, which is 7. 7 is greater than 5. That is, 7 will be adding 1 to the 6, and that gives us 507.7. B. 507.6757 to the nearest hundredth. We find out that the 100th position is number 7, and the decider, which is the next number, is 5. That is, the 5 will be adding a 1 to the 7, and that gives us 507.68. C. 507.6757. The position of the thousandth is 5, and the decider is the number next to it, which is 7. 7 will be adding a 1 to 5, and that gives us 507.676. The next is rounding decimal to the nearest whole numbers. To round a decimal number to the nearest whole number, look at the figure in the first decimal place. If it is 5 or more, round the whole number up. If it is less than 5, do not change the whole number. For example, round off 42.4739 to the nearest whole number. 42.4739. The decider here is the number after the decimal, which is 4. It's not up to 5. Therefore, we round it off to what? To 0. And that gives us 42.0000. To the nearest whole number, that gives us 42. Significant figures. The word significant means important and is another way to approximate numbers. A figure's position in a number shows its worth. For example, the number 40,726 has 5 significant figures. 4 is the first significant figure, 0 is the second, 7 is the third, 2 is the fourth, and 6 is the fifth. Note that 0 in between all numbers are significant, while zeros at the end are not significant. An example is displayed in this image. Let's take a look at numbers less than 0. The number 0.006430 has 3 significant figures, which are 6, 4, and 3. Just as I stated earlier, that numbers that have 0 at the end are not significant. It can only be significant if it is in between. The 0 before the decimal number means that there are no units. and the 3 zeros after the decimal point mean that there are no tens, hundreds, or thousands. So the 4 zeros are not significant figures. Therefore, the most significant figure is 6, followed by 4, and lastly 3. Also note that the first significant figure is always the first non-zero figure as you read a number on the left. Example: give 45775 correct to A, 1 significant figure, B, 3 significant figure. A, 45775 equals 50,000. Since the next number to 4, which takes the position of the 1 significant figure, is 5, then it will add 1 to 4 to make it 5, thereby making every other number become 0. B, 45775 to 3 significant figure. This will give us 45,800. Since the next number to 7, which takes the position of the 3 significant figure, is 7, then it will add 1 to 7 to make it 8, thereby making every other number become 0. Let's discuss approximation involving addition and subtraction. For example, round off each number to 1 significant figure, then approximate the answer. A, 307 minus 116. Rounding off 307 would give us 300, and rounding off 116 will give us 100. Therefore, we have 300 minus 100, and that gives us 200. B, 67.5 plus 93.6. Rounding off 67.5 to the nearest whole number gives us 70, and rounding up 93.6 to the nearest whole number gives us 90. 70 plus 90 gives us 160. Multiplication and division. Examples: find the approximate answer to 1. 24.17 divided by 2.65. 2. 43 multiplied by 95. Solution: 24.17 to the nearest whole number is 24, while 2.65 to the nearest whole number is 3. 24 divided by 3 equals 8. 2. 43 to the nearest whole number is 40, and 95 to the nearest whole number is 100. Therefore, 40 multiplied by 100 equals 4,000. Note that in expression of numbers, like, it is pronounced as 24.17, not 24.17. We have come to the end of today's lesson. Here are a few questions to assess yourself. 1. Round the number 0.0087430 to 3 significant figures. 2. Perform the following calculation and express the result with the correct number of significant figures. 3.45 times 2.1 plus 0.6783.45 times 2.1 plus 0.678. 3. Estimate the product of 2323 and 1717 without using a calculator. 4. Round 3.473 to the nearest 10. And 5. Give the number 25.4782 correct to 1 decimal place and 3 decimal places. Thank you for learning about approximation with me. See you in our next video. Bye.